Hi there, it's Ilse Strauss here, founder and senior consultant at Purpose Inc. I hope you are well. You know, one of the biggest questions I get asked a lot in working with executives and working with developing leaders as well is, how do I know if I'm doing well? Am I doing okay? And it's a really interesting question to ask because we have so much information available to us out there as leaders, out there as growing leaders. There's seminars, there's workshops, there's books, there's articles, there's quizzes, there's questionnaires. There's a whole range of insight and information that every single person who is committed to developing themselves as a leader could be accessing. And many of you do access these resources to serve and support you in developing as a leader. So when you ask yourself, well, how do you know if you're doing well? What are the key criteria that you use to determine if you are doing well or not? Well, sure, there are stacks of different types of benchmarks, different types of resources, different types of criteria that you could utilize. But one that I want to share with you today that I think is going to be very important, particularly for those of you who have a strong congruency with wanting to be a leader with purpose. Purpose Inc. is about helping leaders develop with a sense of purpose. Now, whether or not you believe that there is such a thing as having a purpose as a leader or not becomes a philosophical question for you to answer in and of itself. But a lot of our leaders, me as well, personally, I choose to believe that in leading whichever entity I am leading, whichever space I'm holding as a leader, there is a purpose that I intend to have. Call it my own personal belief, it might be your personal belief, but what I notice and what statistics show us is that when we lead from a space of purpose, meaning there is an intention that is unquantifiable, meaning there is a mission attached to it. There is something that is more fulfilling for you within that space that you are leading in. It is that inner driver for you. Then people's results are greater. I think one of the Forbes surveys that were done on leaders and particularly executives and CEOs said that with 65% of executives establishing their purpose, their mission, their vision, and their values, less than 10% of those same executives were in alignment with those vision, mission, and values, which tells us a number of things. Number one, it's that we believe that our vision, our mission, our purpose, values, we believe that this to be something that is in existence. We believe it to be a reality that we want to experience. And that is a good thing. And where the challenge becomes for a lot of people is then aligning with that vision, mission, and purpose. And I used to think that it was, well, perhaps it's just the alignment part that's the problem. Maybe it's just helping people create the rituals throughout their day to live and lead within alignment to that. A lot of leaders would say to me, you know, Ilse, we've created this. We've established what our values are. We've established what our vision is. However, we're struggling to have our teams come into alignment with that. And I totally get it because it's more difficult to have people mobilize around something that is not tangible, that is an unseen, it's an idea, than it is to sometimes create it. But therein lies one of the challenges of leadership, isn't it? You know, I think if leadership was easy, there would be more people that were in the space of leadership and finding a greater sense of fulfillment in doing it. And when you've got so many complexities to deal with, you know, right now we're dealing with the aftermath of COVID-19, or you're dealing with new processes that you've had to put into place. You're dealing with new infrastructures that's had to come into place. So constantly there's this adaptation that's needing to happen in leadership. And it can mean that people are going off in all different ways, all different pathways, and sometimes becoming segregated and disseminating different ideas if they don't harness around one. And again, therein lies one of the complexities of leadership. Because if you're simply just running the show, making sure the daily operations are happening, ensuring that the processes are being followed, ensuring that the systems are being taken care of, then do you really need leadership for that? Do you really need leadership to ensure that every day the monotony of making sure the operations are efficient is occurring? Some would say yes, some would say no. Some would say that we only really need leadership when there is complexity. Some would say we really only need leadership when there is a time of transition, when there is a time of change. And that's more of what we would call adaptivity versus being technical. Technical is a space of management. Being adaptive is more of the space of leadership. You still need management skills, but it's that learning to know how to deal with chaotic, ambiguous environments that's really important in the realm of leadership capabilities. So I used to think that maybe it was simply the alignment part that was a challenge for people. And then what I started to notice over the last probably around 10 years of doing consulting with executives is that sometimes identifying what the purpose is the challenge. Identifying what the mission is the challenge. And identifying what the vision is the challenge. Because we can have all these different ideas about what we intend our companies to be, or what we intend our departments to be, or what we intend our home to be like. Parenting is leadership. I personally have, my husband and I, we have 3 children. Hey, Rumbi, how are you? Good to see you here. We have 3 children. And I believe that leadership is required in parenting just as it is in running a business, in running a department, in running a Forbes company. No matter how big or how small, if you are responsible for ensuring that not only daily occurrences are happening, but also that there is something bigger, something greater that as a unit you are all moving towards, doesn't that then display leadership capabilities? So I would have these conversations with people, and often it would take a day or 3 or more to really help identify what the vision is. And it would be a really frustrating experience for a lot of people, because identifying something that is so ambiguous, it's just an idea, it's an imagination, can be quite challenging for a lot of people. And for those of you who are here, feel free to share your thoughts, your insights, and so forth, because it's taking something that is out there or in here, and starting to give it language. If you think of all of the companies, all of the organizations, all of the it could be the clubs, it could be a church, it could be a group, anything that you admire, there's a mission there. There is a vision there. And usually it starts with one person's vision. You know, for quite a long time, I worked with small business owners. And one of the key things that we would always constantly have to do is look at, well, how is what you're doing in alignment with your mission? How is what you're doing in alignment with your vision? And as I began to do more work with bigger businesses, bigger organizations, I noticed that the conversation really didn't change too much. It was still about identifying what matters most to you. And how does this translate into creating something bigger? So understanding what your purpose is might seem like something completely irrelevant. It might even seem like something that just isn't necessary, completely obsolete in the context of running a business where profitability, KPIs, and strategic initiatives should be the name of the game. But here's the thing, they are all completely intertwined. Most of the time, people, when they are fighting for the results, fighting for the KPIs, fighting for the new strategic initiative, fighting to mitigate risk, all of it is happening with an sometimes disclosed or undisclosed purpose at play. You know, in the world of human behavioral coaching, we call it knowing your outcome. What is your outcome? And most people, some people, can identify what the outcome is, what the result is that you want to achieve. And this is the beautiful thing about knowing your outcome and how it's linked to something more intrinsically of value to you. Intrinsically simply meaning what is internally motivating for you, rather than, the push or the pull of something external. When you understand and start to gain more of a glimmer of what your purpose is as a leader, it starts to make so much of the challenges, so much more of the obstacles, you can put it in better perspective. It diminishes the power per se, or it diminishes the challenges or the stress or the emotion that comes with, the day-to-day challenges of doing the do without knowing what the purpose is. Because when you have an intention in mind, when there is deliberate intention in mind, and there is deliberate intention in every single thing that someone does, every single thing, we all have a reason for it. But most of the time, it is simply hidden by all of the activities we do throughout the day. It is where we find ourselves sometimes in feeling like we're in the rat race, or feeling like you're the hamster on the wheel, or, the leader who goes to bed at night wondering if they did a good job for the day. More often I'll speak to a lot of leaders when they first start working with me, if I'm doing some form of executive coaching with the individual rather than working with the organization. The individual often say, "Ilse, I don't know if I'm doing a good job." And that can give me a lot of insight as to, well, how do we determine if you're doing a good job? What does a good job look like for you? What does it look like for you? And this is one of the key things that I'm really conscious of with Purpose Sync. It's really about helping leaders understand, what does a good job look like for you that supports the organization? Because the organization that you work in, or your particular business, if it's your specific business, there are results you have to meet. You cannot, that is just a guarantee. That is just there. That is why we do business. There are results to hit. There are targets to meet. But when you start deliberately every single day, every single week, with deciding how you want the week to be, how you want to conduct yourself, what are the values that you have, that you want to empower yourself with, you start to live more in alignment with purpose. It is you going to bed at night and knowing you've done a good job despite the challenges that happen throughout the day. It starts to alleviate the questions of, did I do okay today? Did I make that right decision today? I had a text message from one of my clients last week, and they said to me, does it ever get any easier? And I said to them, you know what? It doesn't get easier, but your ability to handle these types of challenges do. And that's where we've got to start looking a little bit beyond what we see right in front of us and starting to ask the question of, how do I experience more meaning in what you're doing as a leader? It's very easy to look at new ways to hit your benchmarks and hit your targets and hit your KPIs. That's the easy part. The challenging part is, how do you as a leader find a sense of meaning, engagement, and fulfillment in your leadership career? When you look at the numbers of burnout and stress experienced by high-level leaders, C-suite leaders, and CEOs, we can start to put this picture together of the amount of stress, the amount of challenge that they're experiencing. Whereas studies are showing us that when we do live our lives, even leaders in the workplace, every single person in the workplace, when you find a sense of meaning, fulfillment, and engagement in the workplace, your stress levels are lower. Your health risks are lower, and you also perform better. Your team will perform better. So today I'd love to encourage you all to ask yourselves, how do you know if what you do every day as a leader is in alignment with purpose? It could be your purpose. It could be the organization's purpose, if that's clearly spelt out. I don't mind what it is. But for today, simply ask yourself, how do you know if you're living in alignment with purpose? And feel free to share this here with us. Feel free to DM me if you'd like. But do this for you, do this for yourself, and do it so you can have a greater experience of being a purpose-driven leader. All right, I look forward to seeing your comments. Bye.